I think a lot of people have different interpretations of what makes a proper place. For years, for 25 years, I was involved with real estate and working with architects in the belief that good design was the thing that made places special and work. I realised probably about 5 or 6 years ago that that was a misplaced belief, and that the reality is that it's people that make places, and the one thing that you don't get involved in when you're involved in real estate is really the use of the space once it's completed. So you get lost in the CGIs of these great development projects, but actually it's what people do in that building, particularly at ground floor level if it's in the public realm, that matters the most. And so I decided to renounce the belief that good design matters. I renounced many things and went in the opposite direction and decided to start to curate people and what people did. And I think that that is the single most important thing that you can do in making a place.
I started a long time ago. I started in 1960, and in those days we had shops at Miles Platting and Bradford and Harper Hay and all around Manchester. And there are lots of streets there which have since been knocked down or changed, where it was a great community. And at times like this, with the World Cup or with some special occasion, they had street parties and everyone really got it on and everyone looked after everyone else. That's a place with buzz. It doesn't have to be a city centre or a town centre, but it does have to have people.
We have lost the we've lost a sense of our own identity. We have spent the last 30 years in a real conundrum in Britain and the UK. In the 80s it was a rush to out-of-town retail development, or then it became edge of town. And in those towns we've also seen mass replication of the same brands in every high street in every town in the country. And obviously now we're seeing the dominance of online retail.
That is a fantastic question, because I think the biggest challenge for most places these days are how you make that growth inclusive. Part of our Vibrant Economy campaign is actually reaching out and seeing what we can do to help organisations collaborate to actually make places better for everyone, so nobody gets left behind. So making them more, focusing on social mobility, focusing on those specific challenges around homelessness and inclusiveness, and getting people into jobs and getting people the skills that they need to actually enter the marketplace. So there's some massive challenges in there, and there's no place better than Greater Manchester in terms of leading that charge around devolution and the things they're doing to take charge of that. So it's not to say it's easy. I think it's very, very difficult, but there's lots happening to try and change the agenda around inclusiveness.
I first came to Manchester in 1985, and the irony is I can now look out of my window in my office at the university where I work, and I can look at the student halls that I used to live in, which is now a new development. 4 cranes building a new innovation and mechanical engineering hub at the University of Manchester. And that, in a nutshell, almost explains everything that's gone on. My actual flat was demolished in 1999 to make way for the aquatic centre for the Commonwealth Games. So there's 2 different staging points there. The first was sport as regeneration, which has transformed Manchester. It's given it a self-confidence, it's given it a character, but also the way in which the universities have expanded in that post-92 period, where they now take on 35,000 students each. That is something that Manchester's really, really turned towards. Whereas when I was here, they turned their back on the rest of the city. It's a real transformation. And that link between town and gown is something that I think Manchester does spectacularly well.
The curation of people and what people do is the vital component that I think is actually missing from our vocabulary. It's missing from the decision makers' suite of armoury, and to our detriment. I think that's why we're getting it wrong a lot of the time, and we need to consider perhaps how we can begin to articulate a case that works and allows us to start to form relationships with people and curate them to make places special, different, distinctive, and work.